Shedeur Sanders is the algorithm. He said it himself. He knows what it is.
I do think Deshaun and Shedeur had really good springs.
Training camp just opened for the Browns, and something happened that nobody outside Cleveland is really talking about. Not a trade, not a benching. A head coach stood in front of a camera and said the quiet part out loud about his quarterback room. For months, the national shows have been burying Shedeur Sanders in bad stats and worse jokes, but the guy who actually runs this team just handed him some real good news, on record, before a single pad was popped in camp. And once you see the numbers behind it, you'll understand why he said it. Let's set the scene. Rookies reported to Browns camp, and out of the whole quarterback room, the two guys who showed up early and got cameras pointed at them were Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. Not Dillon Gabriel, not the rookie developmental guy. Shedeur and Deshaun. Make of that what you want. Now here's the thing about this offseason. It has been a non-stop cycle of people trying to find new ways to say the same tired line. Shedeur's a bum. Shedeur can't read a defense. Shedeur is the worst quarterback in football. You've heard it 50 times from 50 different guys with 50 different microphones, and somehow it never gets any more true just because they keep repeating it. So when ESPN's Get Up wanted off-season content, guess who they built a whole segment around? Not Diego Pavia, not Will Howard, not Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders, working out, lifting a 30-pound dumbbell like it's breaking news. And look, you can laugh at that because it is a little funny, but step back and ask yourself why a fifth-round rookie who supposedly can't play is getting this much airtime from the same people calling him irrelevant. That's not nothing. That's attention, and attention in this league means something. But attention isn't the good news we're here for. The good news came from somewhere a lot more important than a morning debate show. It came from the man whose opinion actually decides who takes snaps in September. Head coach Todd Monken sat down with a Cleveland radio show right before camp opened, and what he said about his quarterback room was not the deflection you'd expect from a coach trying to protect a former first overall pick. It was honest, it was specific, and for Shedeur Sanders, it was about as good as news gets in July. Before we get to exactly what Monken said, understand the stakes here. This isn't some meaningless OTA soundbite. This is the head coach, days before real contact starts, being asked directly about the state of his quarterback competition. Coaches choose their words in these moments. Nothing here is an accident.
Obviously, Monken talking to Ryan Ripken, or the Ryan Ripken Show. I believe this is a local Cleveland show. Somebody please in the Cleveland area correct me if I'm wrong. But I want to hear how Monken feels going into training camp about that quarterback room. Let's hear it.
He had good players, and it was there, the start of it. And
Right,
for whatever reason, us as coaches and as an organization, we didn't take the next step. And then you go through the last few years where, you signed Deshaun and he's gotten hurt and that hasn't come to fruition. And so you go through that. And I really believe we're right. It's a great time to be the head coach of Cleveland Browns, because I really believe with the last couple of drafts, we're a young team. I believe that if our job obviously is to develop our younger players, right?
Listen to what Monken actually said next, because this is the part nobody is clipping. He said it's a great time to be head coach of the Cleveland Browns, not because the pressure is gone, because of what he's watching from his own quarterbacks. He said it flat out. Whether it's Shedeur, whether it's Deshaun, whether it's Dillon Gabriel, the job is to develop the players in that room, and he believes both Deshaun and Shedeur had really good springs. Sit with that for a second. This is not a coach protecting a former #1 overall pick by talking around a struggling backup. This is a coach putting Shedeur Sanders in the same sentence, same praise, same tone as the guy making $230 million fully guaranteed. That's the update. That's the good news. Not a leak, not an anonymous source. The head coach on the record saying his rookie fifth-rounder had a really good spring right alongside the former #1 pick. And then he goes further. He says there's never been a better time to be the head coach of the Browns because of what he's got in that quarterback room. Watch the framing here. He's not saying there's a clear starter. He's not saying Deshaun has it locked. He's saying the competition itself, the presence of both these guys pushing each other, is the good news. That is about as far from a coach trying to bury a player as you can get. Now compare that to what you've been hearing all offseason from guys who've never coached a single practice with these players. Jason Lloyd recycling the same line about Shedeur not being good enough. No film, no specifics, just vibes. Meanwhile, the man actually running these workouts is telling a Cleveland show his rookie had a really good spring. One of these people has actually seen the reps. One of them hasn't. This is why the timing matters so much. Monken did say this in March, when hope springs eternal for every team in football. He said it days before training camp, right as the real evaluation period starts, right when a head coach has every incentive to be blunt if things were actually bad. He wasn't blunt in a bad way. He was blunt in a good way. For Shedeur.
When he said, look, I'm very excited for this team. I'm excited to have this situation here. Now, quickly, before, I want to yap a little bit about this team in general. We do have a Pat McAfee clip. We'll get to it if we can, but I just like pointing things out like this, because, we get EPA'd to death with certain people, right? So when Todd Monken says, hey, I'm excited about these quarterbacks. I have two great quarterbacks. There's never been a better time to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Now, I do want to show you something. Now, I'm never here to tell you.
Now, let's actually check the stats behind that praise, because the numbers back them up more than people want to admit. Here's where it gets good, because the good news doesn't stop with what the coach said. It shows up in the film and the numbers, too, once you actually go looking instead of accepting whatever narrative gets you the most clicks. Everybody loves to throw around EPA per play like it settles the entire argument. Expected points added, how much value a quarterback creates or loses on a given play. And sure, if you just glance at the raw number for Shedeur's rookie year behind one of the worst offensive lines in football, it looks bad. That's the whole argument. That's the soundbite. Shedeur has bad EPA. Case closed. Move on. Except that's not how stats work. And if you ever sat through a statistics class, you know the first lesson is that how you slice the data changes the entire story. So let's slice it properly. Out of the pocket, sure, Shedeur's numbers are rough, somewhere around -0.9 for play. Dillon Gabriel, for context, is even worse out of the pocket, at -0.7. But Kevin Stefanski's offense, and now Monken's, was never built to ask a rookie to freelance outside structure. It's a pocket offense. So the number that actually matters for this system is in-pocket EPA. And in the pocket, Shedeur Sanders posts better EPA per play than Cam Ward, better than Dillon Gabriel, comparable numbers to Jaden Daniels, a guy who just won Offensive Rookie of the Year and took his team to the NFC title game. That's not a garbage stat. That's a rookie behind a bad line performing in structure at a level close to one of the best young quarterbacks in football. Then there's the number that should end the argument completely. Third down EPA, the money downs, the plays that actually decide games. If Shedeur really is the worst quarterback in football, like the talking heads keep insisting, this is where it should show up worst of all. Instead, on third down, Shedeur's range sits alongside Sam Darnold, a Super Bowl starter, alongside Patrick Mahomes, a multiple Super Bowl champion, alongside Matthew Stafford, an MVP, alongside Aaron Rodgers, a legend of the position. Nobody made that up. Nobody's cherry-picking a good game. That's third down performance across the whole season, on the toughest down in football, with the worst play-calling support and a line that couldn't protect him consistently. The full picture doesn't match the narrative. It never did.
Performance when he goes. I've never said that. By the way, shout out to Deontay. Look at where Jalen Hurts is. This is a quick chart about quarterbacks' performance in and out the pocket. We know Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel dealt with abysmal offensive lines. Some would argue that Shedeur's offensive line was worse, right? So we talk about EPA per play. I think it's very interesting that not only do we have Dillon Gabriel, which, shout out to him for when he gets out of the pocket, his EPA per play was only negative 0.7. Shedeur's is like negative 0.01, right? So, or negative 0.9. So very bad on out of pocket. But again, I don't think Shedeur was never this out of pocket demon, even though I thought he could create a lot out of pocket. But what I do want to show you, because that's not really important. In a Kevin Stefanski offense, when you're asked to play in the pocket, what's more important is your in-pocket EPA per play. So Shedeur might have lost a lot of EPA for being out of the pocket. Again, a rookie quarterback that's a pocket passer, I don't think he should be judged that harshly outside the pocket. Whereas, again, Dillon Gabriel, do your thing. But you see Dillon Gabriel also has abysmal EPA per play in the pocket. And not only that, Shedeur Sanders has better EPA per play in the pocket, right, than Cam Ward, right, and Dillon Gabriel, and Geno Smith don't count, but it is what it is. And he has comparable numbers to Jaden Daniels. Again, not saying it's elite, not saying it's amazing. I'm saying that offensive line was absolutely terrible.
Let that sink in. Worst EPA overall according to the critics. And yet, on the most important down in football, he's sitting next to a legend and 2 Super Bowl winners. So put it all together. You've got a head coach, days before camp, publicly saying his rookie had a really good spring in the same breath as a $230 million quarterback. You've got that same coach saying there's never been a better time to be the Browns quarterback specifically because of what's in that room. And you've got the actual advanced numbers, the ones that require you to dig past the first headline, showing Shedeur competitive with MVPs and champions on the downs that matter most. That's 3 separate pieces of good news landing right on top of each other before a single training camp practice. Not one leak, not one anonymous source with an agenda. A head coach on record and stats anyone can go verify themselves. And it's not just the quarterback room getting good news either. Look at the defense Shedeur would be walking into if this competition breaks his way. Denzel Ward is still anchoring the secondary, Grant Delpit locking down the back end with an extension reportedly on the way, Myles Garrett still the best pass rusher on the planet, and Jared Verse turning into an absolute problem off the edge. Mason Graham developed into exactly what they hoped when they drafted him. That's a defense that can carry a team while a quarterback situation sorts itself out. That's good news too if you're Shedeur Sanders trying to win a job with a defense good enough to keep you in every game. Add the offensive weapons, Denzel Boston and Isaiah Bond giving this passing game speed it hasn't had in years. Harold Fannin Jr. at tight end, a running back room with real juice. This isn't a rookie being set up to fail behind a bare cupboard. This is a full roster and a head coach who just told the world on the record that both of his quarterbacks earned real praise heading into the most important month of the year. So when people ask why Shedeur Sanders keeps getting this much attention despite all the noise, here's your answer. It's not just because he calls himself the algorithm, even though he's not wrong about that either. It's because the people who actually watch him practice, coach him, and grade the film keep saying things that don't match the outside narrative at all. A head coach doesn't hand out spring praise for free. Numbers don't lie about third down performance. And a full roster like this doesn't get built around a guy the front office thinks is a lost cause.
But specifically EPA per play on third down. And you know me, because everybody says Shedeur's terrible. He's got the worst EPA and whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay. So Shedeur's EPA is going to be down here, right? Because he has the worst EPA. He's the worst quarterback ever. No, actually, on the most important down in football, Trizzy, look away. The bottom 5 is J.J. McCarthy, Dillon Gabriel, Bryce Young, Cam Ward, Tyrod Taylor. That's my guy, Cam Ward, Russell Wilson, Davis Mills, Carson Wentz, Lamar Jackson, which I don't like. I don't like that. Kirk O'Chains, Jaden Daniels, Jake Browning, Justin Fields, Michael Penix, Tua, and you actually have to go and hey, don't shoot the messenger. Please don't shoot the messenger. But Shedeur, worst EPA per play, worst player of all time on third downs, has a similar EPA range to Super Bowl winner Sam Darnold, multiple Super Bowl winner Patrick Mahomes, MVP Matt Stafford, and legend Aaron Rodgers. Now, hey, man, I wish I made these stats up.
That's the reality behind the good news. Now here's what it means going into camp. Let's be clear about what this is and isn't. This isn't a guarantee Shedeur Sanders wins the job. Deshaun Watson has real starting experience and a fully guaranteed contract, and Monken made clear this competition runs through the bulk of camp and into the preseason games before anything gets decided. Nobody's been named the starter. Nobody's been benched. This is a genuine two-man battle, and both coaches and reporters covering this team keep calling it exactly that, a true competition, maybe the truest quarterback battle anywhere in the league right now. What this is proof that the loudest offseason narrative, the one insisting Shedeur Sanders is a lost cause who shouldn't even be in the conversation, doesn't hold up against what the people closest to the team are actually saying, and what the deeper numbers actually show. Good news doesn't mean the job is won. It means the doubters lost their easiest argument. It means walking into camp, the story isn't, can Shedeur even compete? The story is, these two are pushing each other and nobody outside the building knows yet who's going to win. That's a very different conversation than the one national media has been having all offseason, and it's the one that's actually true. So, here's where we land. A head coach on record calling both quarterbacks sharp this spring. Advanced stats putting Shedeur next to champions and an MVP on the downs that matter most. A full roster built to support whoever wins this job. That's the good news, and it's real, verified, on-the-record good news, not some anonymous leak designed to get clicks. Now it's on Shedeur and Deshaun to go earn it in pads, because Monken made it clear this gets decided in camp and in those preseason games, not in a radio interview in July. So, here's my question for you. Do you think Shedeur Sanders wins this job outright in camp, or does Deshaun Watson's experience and that guaranteed money end up deciding it before the season even starts? Smash like and subscribe.